Like I have been through an incredible amount of different things. I've experienced an exorcism ritual, which I don't know if I'll eventually talk
Wow.
about, but um, and that was pretty intense. And yet
Yeah.
it's like I'm still questioning.
Analyzing life.
Considering the answers.
Lens of Hopefulness with John Passadino.
With guest.
Therapist and paranormal expert Lalo.
Welcome, Lalo, to Lens of Hopefulness.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I've been listening to your podcasts, by the way, and I just can't stop listening or watching them. And for folks that are wondering what I'm talking about,
Good. I was
it's
wondering if anybody was watching.
the Realms podcast, which if you're watching this, I'm going to put up a little slide there that shows Realms, REALMS, commune. And here's another picture of a bunch of videos that are on that. And I highly recommend people going out because all these are so interesting, all these videos about the paranormal. And so Realms stands for, I'm going to read it, Real Experiences, Answers, Lore, Myth, and Sanctuary. A really cool acronym. I love it. So tell me how this developed, how you got into this field and developed this program.
So I've been on a couple of interviews, and I've been kind of asked a little bit about that question.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of introspect, and I think part of what it is that I've had just always a little bit of existential anxiety, but I've
Hmm.
also had a lot of events that have kind of brought me very close to death and have made me think about what is
Wow.
life about,
Yeah.
and when I was in school and we had a class, we talked about death. I was like, oh, I can just do this forever.
Mm.
And so I did, um, which, seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, currently doing therapy. And from there, I think that there's a lot of like limitations,
Yeah.
a lot of things, just the way that we do things clinically just because it makes sense in terms of like research methods and whatnot is that things have to be proven. It has to be very black and white.
Yeah.
um but that's also not real life, like in terms of when you talk about like astrology, all the things out there in the universe, there's so much that we can't explain and we
Oh,
don't
yes.
fully understand. So within some of this, trying to find purpose, right? Trying to find a kind of a hope as well. I became curious and I was like, I wonder how do people kind of live with some of this stuff?
Mm.
And,
Hmm.
what is it like for them? Because there's a lot of stigma attached to all these kind of events.
Yes.
Um, And sometimes it's like, it'd be good if they could just have a community, they could have a place where, we could kind of talk about these things. And, from there, the first step was like, okay, well, maybe I'll start a podcast.
Hmm.
So after talking to a lot of different friends and people, that's kind of what they told me, thought was the best thing to do. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I spent forever kind of like trying to figure out a name. And then I was like, you know what? I think doing an acronym would be nice, and played around with a few hundred things, and
Yeah.
we landed on.
Well, it's very catchy and it's meaningful, easy to remember. And I really love the approach you take with the podcast. I mean, I've been watching, I know it's on audio, it's audio also, Spotify,
Hmm.
and probably other places too. But I watched you on YouTube, and you and your, I'll say your team, you have a great approach where it's like a very like open minded, where you have guests on that everybody gets a chance to speak. I mean, from what I've seen so far, I don't see people getting emotional or angry. It's all like helpful sharing stories. of their experiences and looking for answers and explanations and not really saying, this is the way it is and that's it. So I really admire that approach. And that's why, as a podcast host myself, because I know as you know from being a host, you're doing so much of this. So it's like, if you're going to go out and watch a podcast, you want to, find one that you're really going to latch on to, because you're so used to doing this. Like, it's like a ball player. They're not going to go out and play ball after their ball game. They had enough of playing a ball game. But so the point is, when I found your podcast, I started watching. I was like, oh, I like this one. I could actually watch it. And I was working and listening to your podcast. I was like, wait, I'm not turning it off. That's good. So that's a kudos to you. Yeah. And a wide variety of guests too, which I really admire. Again, so how you must have spent so much time networking? Is it from your work in therapy that you met all these types of people? How did you gather them as you do?
Internet.
Okay.
Hosting all over the place. Again, to be honest, I think a lot of it is I don't really know what I'm doing in some ways. I think like a lot of people in life,
Yeah.
just trying to figure it out. So,
I
people
love
say,
your,
try this.
I love
Let's
your
go.
I love your humility also.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's very authentic. It's very real. And also the fact that you admit to so many different things. And your partner or wife is on the show with you too, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I there was one podcast video I was watching where there was actually a recent death, and you guys were all talking about that. I think one of your guests had a death, and everybody just kind of like supported that person. Again, very authentic. I'm talking about versus a cheesy television show that's
Right.
like a clickbaity television show where there's lots of glitz, and then there's a very slick host with all kinds of I don't know, it's very like supernatural to attract people in, and we know people go for it. We've all been through it. We've all had deaths in our families, and some of us have gone to mediums, some of us have had experiences, and it's natural to find our way to, as part of our grief journey, or finding hope that person is still there. And so the point is that those shows naturally attract people, but I get very turned off by the inauthentic ones. That's my point. And there have been so many that have been, like the cold readers. So many of them have been exposed, and you're like, oh no, another one. And
as a matter of fact, I think we've joked about it. Like I think everybody kind of within my group that we're just waiting for that one person that we're completely gonna like clash and disagree with on everything.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. But in the meantime, so what you've gone on this journey to seek and find and all that. What have been would you say your greatest discoveries or most profound discoveries so far?
I think that the one thing that I almost keep coming back to is so two things. Again, within the whole thing of like existentialism and trying to figure out what life and everything's about. After many years, I think my conclusion is that whatever the answer is, it's too big for us to understand.
Yeah.
And that, it's like the whole thing of, again, explaining like calculus to bees. It's just so out of our perception that we just can't even try to understand. And then from that is that, truth is a little bit relative. And some of like what might at the end of the day be the real answer, right?
Hmm.
It almost doesn't really. I don't know how much it matters if it's just going to make you miserable.
Hmm. That's a interesting perspective.
You know, and also how big, a human connection is.
Yeah, yes, yes. Yeah, I was thinking about something I heard on one of your shows about you guys were talking about placebo effect. I'm not sure who said what now. I can't, my memory is not that good, but we're talking about
I don't
if it makes you feel good, for
know.
some people, a belief system, if
Yeah,
it makes them feel good, fine, just go with it. Because it, like, say, a belief system in a particular religion or method, and how can we knock it? They're getting by. These, I'm all paraphrasing all over the place.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
blessing with that is balance, right?
balance, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily like go all cult-like either,
Right,
which
right, right, right.
I understand why some people do because, you get tired of finding direction. If somebody can just tell you, it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
That has always kept me away from going all in on certain, in certain aspects of religion because I don't want to get sucked into a cult like existence. I'm always very skeptical and take baby steps
yeah,
toward the source and then go, something's not right. I don't want to go so all in that I lose myself in it and I lose touch with reality. And part of it's my anxiety. I have bad anxiety, generalized anxiety, and panic disorder, which is where I've experienced my near death experience. I shouldn't say NDE, they weren't NDEs, but I felt like I was dying literally so many times from when I was in a panic attack that that has pushed me toward, facing my fear of death. And that's why I'm always seeking to find out, is there really something up on the other side? Because that would be very, very reassuring. And of course, there's so many people, like you've interviewed them, and I've met a few mediums too that I recently met a medium that, I don't know if I told you this in our pre-production. Well, I know him. I'm kind of friends with him. He's a webmaster for an organization I'm with, and he actually has recordings of ghost voices. I forgot the name of the device he uses, but they talk to him. He was finding these Revolutionary War era ghosts, and they were talking to him through this little speaker. And you just like look at that and go, how could this be? It's just like beyond comprehension. And why are they talking to him?
yeah.
And I've seen some other interesting things too. I just thought of one. I mean, I'm talking not interesting, but mind-boggling. As you know, there are apparitions at times, religious apparitions. The Blessed
Hmm.
Mother Mary has appeared over hundreds of years, different apparitions. One of the recent ones is Medjugorje, Yugoslavia, and that's been going on for like 20 years. So one of the children grew and kept seeing the apparitions, and about 15 years ago came to my church in New York. And in my church, we filled the church, and that person came and he dropped to
Yeah.
his knees and said, she's here. The Blessed Mother is here with us. And he went on to have a conversation with her, and we didn't see anything. And he turned around, made the sign of the cross, whatever. And then he said she's very happy that you're all gathered here today. She wants you to know she's very appreciative of you all being here. And we were like, so the Blessed Mother was right there, like 15 feet in front of me. So again, it's like a mind-boggling
Yeah.
situation where you don't know whether the person's is suffering from a psychosis or
Right.
delusions or whatever, or if it's really there. And I know you've gone into this investigation too, these types of things. You've talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like, again, it's hard to know what is essentially part of what, but
Yeah.
also there's the whole thing sometimes where you just kind of know someone so well, and it's
Mm.
like you can kind of tell that something's wrong, you
Yeah.
know? Like
Yeah.
yeah, without anything being said.
I my brother, my late brother, was very mystical, and he wrote beautiful letters, hand wrote beautiful letters, Christian themed letters that were so beautiful, and he did eulogies that at funerals where people would say, "Your brother is amazing," but there were times that he would be in a have to go to a mental hospital from severe depression, and
Mhm.
I would want to say, like, well, you think my brother's really amazing? He's, I want to say, like, he's a nut. And I mean that affectionately. I love my brother so much. I loved him so much. But he was on this borderline where, if they had seen him 2 weeks before the eulogy, they would go like, "What's wrong with your brother? Why is he like that? He's so odd." But then he would step up and become this other person, like beautiful sermons, like eulogies, and people would cry. And then he would walk off and go back to where he was. So it's astonishing what people are capable of.
It is.
But he was treated with medicine and everything, and he went up and down. He would be in and out of. He did try preaching and all, but he'd be in. Now, if we talk about the saints, there are many. I'm looking up because I have pictures up on my wall. But if you were watching the video, there are saints that they say had issues too. Saint Paul the Apostle was a Christian persecutor, and then Jesus spoke to him, and then he did a complete 180 and became an apostle that went out, and he was tortured and he was jailed, and he just kept going, gangbusters,
Yeah.
developing churches, amazing. So it's just mind-boggling how the human spirit can be driven to do all these things. And you don't know, like I said, you don't know. Well, like you said, sometimes you can tell if you know somebody really well. You can tell, yeah. There are people that suffer from delusions of grandeur. There are narcissists, of course, that will say things to gain attention that are very outlandish, and you can say like, what's this person talking about?
Right.
But so, when you think about your guests, all the guests you've had in your shows, generally, what have you found, if you're able to say? Would you say they're 50% on the money or accurate or believable, 60%, 70%, 80%, 100%? Is there any way that you could quantify what you've come across in terms of people that you've met and interviewed without getting yourself into trouble?
Well, I think that what they believe it fully.
So they're
You know,
very committed, the people that you
yeah,
have on. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. The life experience itself has been significant enough that
Right.
it has shaped their point of view in life.
Yeah.
How true that is, I don't know. Like
Hmm.
I have been through an incredible amount of different things. I've experienced an exorcism ritual, which I don't know if I'll eventually
Wow.
talk about, but um, and that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And yet, it's like I'm still questioning. You know?
Sure.
Uh,
Was it done by a Catholic priest, the exorcism?
yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
because, yeah. Hmm.
There's an entire group of people for one single person. They closed down the church. It
Mm.
was a 3-4 hour thing. So
Wow.
yeah,
Because my understanding is the Catholic Church is the organization that can sanction exorcisms. I think they're the only church that's recognized that can do that.
Yeah.
a bishop has to authorize it or something, or a cardinal. I'm not sure. And I'm thinking about the movie that still to this day, if I watch it, that really floors me is The Exorcist. Even though it's dated now, it still holds up. And that battle between the devil and Father Karras that goes on is extraordinary. And but I also know that, I mean, that's fiction, obviously. There have been exorcisms throughout the world, and like we don't know whether, well, we can even take it back to Jesus, telling spirits to leave people, and
Did you
healings.
ever see the Exorcism of Emily Rose?
No, that sounds familiar. You were talking about it on one of your shows, but I don't think I
Yeah,
heard the
I
whole
did
thing.
when I was first kind of starting, I was doing some movie reviews kind of thing. The
Okay.
editing and the research and everything just got overwhelming with real life, and I haven't been able to do it. But I did one on breaking down that case in particular because it was
Hmm.
based off of a true exorcism.
Okay.
And that's actually the one that led the Catholic Church, at least in Germany and even kind of here within the standard of like, before they do that, they want you to see a psychiatrist or a therapist
Okay.
to kind of just rule out anything that's like easily explainable. And there's a lot of things that kind of happen that, again, we're also very much shaped by the media. Like
Sure.
one of the things about that particular one was, as you kind of mentioned, what was the big craze at that point was that The Exorcist had just came out.
There you go. Yeah.
And people can, become very influenced kind of by kind of like what they see,
Hmm.
kind of what they hear. I mean,
Yeah.
again, whenever I witnessed that exorcism, right, and I saw this person behaving in a different way, right? Part of me is almost kind of questioning that. It's like, it's not that I don't believe you know, it's just I wonder how much they were influenced by that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like copycat, that term that they call, like, if there's some kind of, like a shooting or something, there'll be another shooting and another shooting and
Yeah.
another shooting because there's copycat or killers that do it. So can that person have absorbed what they saw and then become convinced that they were possessed? And well, I mean, I can tell you from my experience in my hypochondriacal experience and my panic attacks. Again, I've become, at times in my life, I was thoroughly convinced that my heart was going to explode and I was going to die, and that's it. I mean, I was
Yeah.
convinced, and no one can convince me otherwise. I mean, an ambulance would be called. They would come and say, you seem to be okay. You may want to go to the hospital just in case. And I would be like, I'm okay, because I'm not believing it. I'm like, are you sure? Because I feel like I'm dying. And whatever chemicals, whether it's adrenaline or other chemicals were shooting into my system, had me in another state completely.
Right.
And I could see that happening with. I was going to talk about faith healing, where there have been faith healers that can temporarily heal somebody and they actually feel healed, and then like weeks later they're like back to being sick again because during those moments they actually got a surge of something within them that made them feel like they were better. And there has been some speculation. I'm a Christian, by the way, and I believe in Jesus and all that. But there has been speculation that Jesus was doing that, like faith healing, that people were, maybe it wasn't a miracle. Maybe some people were actually feeling a lift of a burden from their shoulders and they felt healed like that. I believe that he was performing miracles, but just as my disclaimer. But there's been speculation that some of the healings might have been faith healings, meaning that it was more like an emotional healing than an actual healing.
I
So
mean, that's still healing, though,
it's
right?
still a healing. Yes, it's still a healing. Yes. So however it's done, and of course there's the shills that I think Benny Hinn was was a name that I remember watching him on TV where he was healing people, and it came out that some of the stuff was staged, and he promised not to do that kind of stuff anymore. He's making tons of money. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No.
Yeah, it was a long time
But
ago.
what comes to mind is I don't remember where I saw it or if I talked about it, but the people that do the like the walk where like the stones are on fire.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like yeah, they do that like kind of like with a ritual. Um, there's been like a lot of cases where the group chanting does something to the feet where they can walk across it without having their feet being burned. You know?
So it's something that
Um,
you. Oh, so the group is chanting, and that it does
yeah.
something to the person mentally. Where
Yeah, it like
okay.
raises something within like their adrenaline, something
Oh,
the way
okay,
like their body
okay.
changes physically, right?
Yeah.
And it's to a point, it's like, is that kind of thing something paranormal,
Hmm.
right? I mean, even though whether it is or not, I mean, normally, like 99% of the people, if they just try to walk through those like stones on fire, their feet are going to be like cut open,
Right.
blistered. So if there could be something special about just, I guess, like community, about the
Mm.
connection that we have with each other, where it
Mm-hmm.
can give us that strength.
Yes.
I mean, I'm kind of a nerd and I love to watch documentaries,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I've heard so many stories, so many war stories of like, there's one that was like Medal of Honor of this person that got shot like 7 times and
Mm.
kept doing like things for his like fellow soldier, like out of love,
Mm.
Like, isn't that, I don't know. I think that there's something kind of almost like special about that. It's like an
Yes.
emotion can almost give you a superpower. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
science, can't
There,
really define that.
there were stories of a mother lifting a car. A car was on top of their kid, and she just all of a sudden she became like Superman, and lifted the car up.
Yeah.
And so many other stories like that where people become like almost like superhuman.
Hmm.
And well, we see in times of tragedy like 9/11 in the United States,
Hmm.
where we are, where the country banded together, everybody was one, and we
Yeah.
were all like on the same page and like, yeah, go get them, and everybody, I know because I'm in New York, and there were so many people that were ready to go in, and they were
Hmm.
saying, no, 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 don't come in. Like my boss, I was a computer worker, by the way, and we were like, I would say across the river from Manhattan. My boss was like, I'm going to take my truck and go in. And and they were like, no, no, we don't want all these trucks coming in, because it'd be like, thousands. But everybody had that spirit. We were singing God Bless America on our break. We were praying
Yeah.
together. There was absolutely no division. It was amazing, miraculous even. I remember our president's approval rating was like 90% at the time, which is like unheard of.
Yeah.
So, hmm, hmm,
And again, I know like some of this you can kind of explain, again, the superpower kind of like to adrenaline,
yeah,
but it's not going to happen every time.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things that just, I don't know, there's like something special about it. It's like you can almost feel it in the air. Like when you talk
hmm.
about that feeling, it's like you can't just replicate it if you wanted to.
Yeah. I've had some supernatural things happen, which I didn't know how to handle. I didn't want to move forward with what I was doing. I got very into trying to heal at one point. Not trying to heal, but I was so slain in the spirit that I was able to touch somebody and their pain would go away. And then I
Hmm.
just stopped doing it because I wasn't sure where it was coming from, why it was happening. And, because of my anxiety, it was making me more anxious. And like, I don't want to start like having a line of people at the door. I was like afraid of what, and I just couldn't understand it. And there was another thing that happened where I was channeling with my father who had passed away. And he
Hmm.
gave me information that I didn't know, including my grandmother's maiden name, which I did not know. My grandparents were Italian immigrants, and they were much, my father was the youngest or 11th of 12th children. So my grandparents were gone by the time I was even born on my father's
Right.
side. And so I didn't know my grandmother at all. And I said, Dad, tell me your mother's maiden name so I know it's you. And he told me the name, Ingracia, Laura Ingracia. And after he told me, I went to my mother and I said, I had communications with Dad. And I wrote down what he said. And it was Grandma's maiden name Ingracia? She said, yes, it was. I said, oh, well, I was talking to Dad, And she was like, why isn't he talking to me? And I just stopped. I was like, oh, I don't know. So she was kind of like, she was so, she was grieving and so lonely and hurting. And all of a sudden, like, why is he, it was like, why is he talking to you and not to me? I need to talk to him. So that's when I stopped doing that too. Because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to upset people. And I don't want to set up shop either, where I'm going to start doing this for a living or something. But I think it's back to your point of like how we can do things. And I was very close with my dad. I loved him so much, and I needed to communicate with him. And I tried everything I could with books that I read and all that. And we actually went to a home that had a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yeah.
And that family this was on Long Island, New York, and the family had lost their young son. And then one day they saw a picture of him in the picture of Jesus. So we, in this family, would allow people to come in and look at the picture once per year. You had to make an appointment a year in advance. And my family went, and sure enough, I saw my father's face in the picture. It's like, wow. I mean, I wanted to see his face too, like we were talking about before. Sometimes it's just like you're geared up to want to
Yeah.
see it. But the picture was also changing rapidly too. It was like, it was like almost like, and this is before the days of like, big tech. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like a fake thing. It was definitely the picture. And then they showed us pictures of the picture. They were saying, we saw this picture, this picture. I was like, wow. And I don't know if that family's still around. And no, it was a long time ago when they were already elderly. I don't know what happened to that picture. I'll have to look it up. Whether it was continued on or not. But these are just a few things over the years. There are many others too, as I think about it, where I've had these experiences that are just hard to explain, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been kind of, I just continue to learn. And that maybe part of it's me seeking it out. I think that's the other thing too, is the more I have different guests, the more I can at least expand my mind to some of it.
Yeah.
But in some of the more kind of, again, like science-based kind of things, is you know, I heard this whole thing that the idea of the Big Bang was created by like a Catholic astrophysicist,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
funny enough, the Big Bang is kind of par and par with the start of the Bible. where,
Hmm.
the first line is, in the beginning, God said, let there be light.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yep.
that like essentially what the Big Bang is?
Yes. True that. And I've listened to I say listen because I listen to a lot of books. I listen better
Mhm.
than I read.
Yeah.
I've been listening to Carl Sagan books and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and
Hmm.
the stuff that they say. Again, it's like way out there, and it's like, and you think about where on this little piece of rock spinning around in space with one
Right.
star that supports us,
Right. Yeah.
but there's also like 100 trillion other stars or more and universes and
So
all that.
that actually kind of gets to what I was gonna kind of say. I think too, at the end of the day, part of the reason why I care is for a long while I was doing research with like AI and talking to
Yeah.
people, reading books, whatever. It's like what is the purpose of living, right?
Hmm.
And one of the answers is that I saw that really kind of I guess stuck with me is we live because we can, because we're almost not supposed to, you know?
Hmm.
And I saw this other thing which I just found that says, the probability of the precise like sperm and egg that created you is one in like 400 trillion. So we add that to if you look at like Earth, rock planets close to the sun are a rarity in most solar systems.
Hmm.
Jupiter's like protecting us from like asteroids being hit.
Hmm.
We have so many things that we are a like theoretic impossibility of existing. And here we are. So it's like if I am, and I'm only here for, a blink of an eye,
Yeah.
it has to mean something, it has to be worth something.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, well, I've gotten to the stage of life where I appreciate every day. I mean, back, when I was young, there were periods where I wasn't sure how long I was gonna, like, when I was like depressed or something. It's like somebody would say like, "Where do you want to be 5 years from now?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I'll even be around." And then as I got older, went through the decades. Now I'm like slamming on the brakes and saying, "Wait a minute. I want to enjoy every single moment because my days are numbered. I mean, I can see the numbered days now just from life expectancy." And my family and the ages they live to and how old I am, I'm like, wow, I might actually only have like around 10 to 15 years left. It's really like sands in the hourglass. I can see the sands in the hourglass going down. So like I don't want to, I want to just enjoy little things which I wasn't able to do when I was younger. It was always
Yeah.
angst, teen angst, and then there was the 20s angst and the 30s angst and the paying the mortgage and the kids and the jobs. So it was all wrapped up in that. Now I'm just kind of like, whew, wow. Look, there's a tree. I'm looking out my window. There's a tree blowing. That is
Right.
so cool. So,
Right. And I think the best way to embrace all that part of life is to expand everything, like try to experience things from everything we understand, but even that we don't understand.
mm,
The
hmm.
next uh podcast that I release, we talk somebody who lived a little bit with the Native American community,
Yeah.
and then they talked about kind of just their experiences and going on some of these trips, and how it like really kind of changed their perspective. And
Yeah.
it's like maybe I need to do something like that.
Hmm.
But it's just kind of interesting how, again, like these experiences can really almost like, again, help people be cleansed. Like
Yeah.
there's sometimes people and, in the right churches or communities as well that they go in and they come out feeling lighter.
Yes. Oh, I've experienced that for sure. And I feel that is church. When excuse me, when I've been not happy with a particular church, And I actually left the Catholic Church at one time because of the scandals that were going on. And I said to the priest and the nun, I'm done. I'm not coming back and all that. And then I realized the people I left behind, it was the people on my level. They weren't doing anything wrong. They're just people. They're my community. They're from my neighborhood. Yeah. And I went back and they welcomed me with open arms. Like, John, how you doing? Where have you been? And I felt this, like, the love and the community that I had been missing because I was pissed off at the hierarchy, you know.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in multiple occasions. And I think that's where Jesus was coming from with his forgiveness mantras. You know, forgive 70 times 7. How many times should we forgive? 7 times? No, 70 times 7. So that's part of what I think is what he was getting at. So what we're talking about here, is this a typical session when you do therapy with people? Like you just have these conversations and work in things that you've discovered? Do you do that?
Maybe a little bit more, kind of within the last 2 or 3 years. And funny enough, you know, some of this actually came from something almost even a little bit unrelated. I listened to this book because I also listen better and I read.
Okay.
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
Yes, I know.
You know, and he was in the Holocaust. He lived through it, and you know, he talks about, you know, the two things that help people live through those experiences. I don't know if you remember what they were.
What are they?
Purpose is the big one.
Okay.
You know, that was kind of the difference between, like, just, again, hope, whether or not somebody was going to live or die. Like, if they thought, I'm going to get out of here, I'm going to see my family, I'm going to be, you know, we're going to be reunited. Yeah. Those were the ones that tended to survive versus those that are like, there's no hope, they're gone, you know?
Yes.
And I mean, like, without having actually known, you know, and then the other one's humor, but you know, that's its own little thing. But sure. But kind of from there, you know, I've kind of noticed that purpose, you know, and direction, you know, also mean motivation. You know, there's a lot of things again that are very, very hand in hand. Like, for example, praying is a form of grounding. I mean, meditating particularly. Yes. Huh. And like it does the same thing like psychologically, that if you did mindfulness and different types of meditation.
I agree.
You know? So there's a lot of things that are just so intertwined that I don't know why we persist so much in separating.
That's a great statement. It is truly frustrating to see, especially when there are wars being fought over ideological differences, when we could be spending money. I sound like a Pollyanna pie in the sky, but you know, let's spend the money on helping each other instead of building weapons, you know. But I don't know if it's a territorial animal fight or flight or something going on within people where they feel a need to protect themselves. And there are people that are out to hurt other people, so you have to defend yourself from those people. But I think the root of it is fear, mainly. There's a fear of someone else's difference and a belief so hard and fast on their own that they believe the other person's no good and need to get rid of that person because they're threatening the right way to do things. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that in our country today with the division, where there are people not talking to each other over ideological differences or whether they like a particular person or not, and it's getting very heated. And it's getting back to the grand scheme, it's really silly. Because we're here such a short period of time, and there's a saying, this too shall pass, right? I think that's from the Bible. and it
Yeah.
will. And if we were here, I mean, my father grew up during the Great Depression. Things were very tough back then. And we're way past that. And then there's World War II. I mean, you can just name so many periods in history, go back, whatever, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years where there was so many difficult times. And, the human race
Yeah,
transcended it.
I speaking of which, in a lot of counseling sessions, and particularly people that have a lot of fear about like the world ending and things like that, I give
Yeah.
the example in one of my art history classes back when I was in college. There's this particular painting. It was called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse,
Ah,
and
yeah.
the year of it was 499.
Hmm.
They were thoroughly convinced that the world was going to end
Yeah.
with the year 500, you know? And then more recent, right? We have Y2K.
Yes.
We have 2012 with the Maya calendar.
Right.
It's like the world's been ending for the last like few hundred years. So
Yeah. Yeah. There was a guy that wrote a book, The Late Great Planet Earth, Hal Lindsey. He had people, it was a bestseller. He had people believing the world was going to end. I think it was 70s, 1970s, around there. And it was like, oh, and then these guys always go, well, oh, wait, I miscalculated. Give me another 10 years. So, yeah.
I'm saying, it's been happening for the last few thousand years, and people, really convinced. It's like this is it.
Well,
Signs are all there.
even the early Christians believed that Paul, especially, who became an apostle after Jesus left the earth, but he thought Jesus was coming back soon, and so did the apostles. They were like, "Okay, he's gone. He came back to life. He went up to heaven, but he's going to come back in like a week, like or next 2 weeks or 3 weeks." They thought he was coming back right away, so and that he was going to, judge the living and the dead or whatever. And here we are 2,000 years later. Now, people will say, well, God's 2,000 years is like a split second for God, so that's what that's all about. But yeah, I don't know if that attitude, or belief of the world ending is part of our instinctual survival mechanism, or, fear of our mortality coming up.
Yeah, I'm recently going through this book called The Denial of Death.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that it starts talking about,
Yeah.
how we're just in some ways looking to kind of justify and trying to make sense of it. So we overly explain it.
Overly explain it. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, everybody, this is Lens of Hopefulness, just in case you joined late. And I'm talking with Lalo. And he has the Realms podcast, which is on YouTube and other places. I think Spotify, and is it other places?
Yeah. Apple Music.
Apple.
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
Amazon.
And Amazon Audible. Very good. And I want to bring up hey, I was watching this. I'll bring it up in a second. I'm going to do a screen share. Let's see if it works. Hey, it worked. So I was listening to this one before. This was crossing over what happens when someone passes a conversation with immersive spirit. And that was a really good one. I was really enjoying that one. And then I had interrupted to be on this show. But that's okay. And all your guests were great in this one, and I was really enjoying it. So people, go out there and find that one and all the others on the Realms commune. That's the one on YouTube. And I will subscribe, by the way. I'm on a different ID there for my Lens of Hopefulness.
Did you happen to catch one of La Santa Muerte?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's just kind of interesting, because as much as anybody can kind of try to share, and I talk to a lot of different people, try to get the best kind of perspective that I can.
Yeah.
Right. And yet there was definitely one or two people that were disappointed, that definitely talked about how I brought it in such a negative light. You know, so sometimes it's like you can't really win, you know. Someone's always going to disagree, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's I think it is important to at least just kind of learn. It's like, hey, there's a new perspective out there.
Yes. I mean, I've learned, I was raised Catholic in the 1960s, by the way. I went to Catholic school from like 1964 through 72. So those were the golden years of
Oh yeah.
Catholicism and nuns and who were very strict. And as I got, and then we used to go to church every day. Before school, we had to go to 8 o'clock mass. So over the years, that changed, and as the church became more liberal, for the Catholic Church, that says a lot, right? But then I got into studying on my own, and I found the mystics like Meister Eckhart and Saint Francis, and all their different perspectives of God, and I was able to, mold my own faith and my own relationship with God without the dogma. And that's kind of where I am now. I am that way now. I attend different churches, or I'll listen to sermons, or I'll just listen to a podcast. And that to me is floats my boat, so to speak. Floats my spiritual boat. But something you said earlier about meditation, interesting, and prayer. I also have ADD. I jump around a lot. And this morning, I've been trying to pray every morning, and my mind's been jumping ahead. And like, our Father who art in heaven, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about something else. And like, God, I want to talk to you. Oops. And then I'm thinking about what I'm going to do later today. Like, wait a minute, I can't pray. So I said, God, help me pray. And a voice said, breathe slowly. And I did. And my mind quieted. I was like, wow. I got into this meditative state, and I felt calm. I didn't feel anxious anymore. So my prayer was answered. Back to what you were saying about prayer and meditation, there is a very, like you said, a close relationship between the two. Just saying a prayer is like a mantra, right? It's like a meditative mantra, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Again, I generally try to help people is if they don't have a direction, helping them find a direction in life, and that sometimes includes mantras. Sometimes it's like letting go and connecting with others. And
Yeah.
and the whole thing with here is as we're trying to figure out life, it's we have so much knowledge that we just do an overproduction of where it's useful, but.
Yeah.
The other thing that I heard that I thought was just just made a lot of sense is that we're just trying to understand things, and the problem sometimes is that in our quest to kind of like figure out what's evil, we paradoxically have the effect of creating kind of like more evil, right? It's like my God's better than your God, so you must be wrong and you must be punished for it, right? But when you look at a lot of different religions, like at its core and in a lot of the themes, there's a lot of similarities.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And in the same, right? Like I could talk about like how, I mean, in counseling, in psychology, there are a lot of similarities with just kind of religion. I mean,
yeah.
Like in some ways, priest can almost be said to be a untrained therapist, right? Especially like
True.
Catholic priests who are just, you go to confessional, you just spill out your guts and
yes.
Go out in your way.
Yeah, I agree. I've interviewed so many guests on the show that have different approaches to psychotherapy or systems or spirituality, and they all converge at some
Hmm.
points. They're all
Yeah.
saying the same thing using different words.
Yeah.
And, most of them are pretty open. But of course, they, like you said, your guests all have conviction, right? And I think that's so important, of course. And my guests have this conviction toward their way works. And, understandably so. If it works for them, it works for them. And all they can do is they could see if there's others out there who it'll work for. They're not saying that this is the only way to go. I haven't come across anybody that said that overtly.
Right.
They happen to develop the system that works. So
Yeah.
how, if somebody was going to see you for therapy, how would they find you? Are you are you just private practice, or are you in a?
I mean, I work for a big company. I work for Teladoc.
Oh, okay. I know
And
it very well.
yeah, but I mostly, I mean, my specialty is trauma and
Okay.
anxiety.
Okay.
So trauma, anxiety, and grief is really what I focus on.
Yeah.
Um, and so I actually don't really even talk too much about, like, again, like anything paranormal, which um,
Right.
that's kind of the thing that, I'm not trying to, again, sensationalize things.
Yes.
Sometimes part of the conversation will kind of go into part of this. And,
Yeah.
if it is, I allow a safe space for it to be explored, but, I'm not trying to convince people of anything. If anything, I'm not really sure what's fully out there yet, if I
Mm.
ever figure it out. But for now, it's like, hearing all these people with conviction, it's like, what do you know that I don't? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you able to live such, kind of calmness
Yeah.
or, with such certainty? Um,
And what system
and I don't.
works for you the best, would you say? For you personally, are you able to say?
Like, what do you mean?
In terms of like anxiety, say, like how do you cope with your own anxiety? Is it prayer, meditation?
Yeah, it's one that's kind of a first grounding, right? Trying to put your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Um, Gratefulness, just
Mm.
it's very easy again to think about the things you don't have, but think
Right.
about what you do have.
Yep.
And then secondly, it's, trying to make the best of it. I use this other example that, if if you're gonna go on a picnic, right? And it wasn't scheduled to rain, but then it like downpours and now it ruins your weekend, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna go with your family, you're gonna go with your partner or whatever to this picnic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have two choices from there. You can either be, miserable and grumpy and angry that
Mm-hmm.
the universe, God, whoever ruined your plans with, a lot of rain,
Mm-hmm.
or you can say it's like, well, it's like, yeah, that sucks, but maybe we'll go bowling, maybe we'll go see a movie, right?
Yeah. And something better may happen. I always felt
Yeah,
that, like, when something happens, oh no, we can't go that route. We go a different route, and we find, oh wow, we never saw
right.
that house before. So it sounds like the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy
A little bit,
approach.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a good bit of that.
yeah. But I mean, with trauma, do you psychoanalyze as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, so trauma is a lot of it based on evolutionary kind of just systems that we have
Yeah.
where our body perceives a threat,
Yes.
and that ultimately changes a lot of our behavior. It's the thing is like your brain still feels the threat. You
Yes.
know, um, when somebody has like high anxiety, I used to kind of just real quick here the metaphor of like if you see a bear, right,
Mm-hmm.
you feel all this kind of stuff because it helps you fight it, helps become aware.
Mm-hmm.
But when anxiety it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, it's like your brain can almost not tell a difference between a perceived threat and a real threat.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're there doing your taxes, it's like, what's more important, a bear that's at your door or the taxes that are in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The bear. So you're a lot of times that's why people can't focus on things too.
Yeah.
So it's like their brain is like analyzing the world and perceiving a threat.
Yeah. That's where I've been for a great, big part of my life. It's only, fairly recently where I've been, as I've matured and gotten older, I'm talking about years, matured in years, because I'm in my 60s
Right.
now. But there were
Right.
times where life was unbearable for me because of that analyzing and analyzing. And I
Mm-hmm.
still find myself creeping into that frame of mind where everything is so important and dramatic and I got to get all this done. And if I don't, it's going to be a big problem. When in reality, I actually retired from my regular job. This is my retirement gig, and I don't have to do anything. I could just like sleep all day, and everything will be okay because I get my Social Security check and I get my 401k check, and everything should be okay. But
Right.
I over dramatize things. It's just it's habitual, and it's the way I'm wired to a certain degree. And what I saw
Mm-hmm.
growing up, because I came from an Italian family, it was very dramatic. So everything
Sure,
was
sure.
loud and dramatic. Little things were loud and dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of the culture too. But like I said, I've definitely settled in because I go, like I said, the sands of the hourglass. I'm like, wait a second, do I want to waste time while these grains are going through being all, flipping out? No, I don't want to do that. So Lalo, this has been a really nice conversation. You have a great manner about you, a very calming manner, and I love your holistic approach to the world, to the universe, actually, that you're so open minded and that you, as I'll show once again, everybody, the Realms Commune on YouTube, and there's some really great stuff out there. So Lalo explores the paranormal, but he's a psychotherapist too. And I love the fact that you bridge both worlds, so to speak. So, and that makes for made for a very interesting guest. And I only hit the tip of the iceberg of what we could talk about. So perhaps we could sort of
Yeah.
isolate on another subject another time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Kind of
that's
jumped all
why I
over the
kind
place.
of stayed quiet. I'm like, do I want to go into a 30-minute like spiel about this? Talk about like
I
stupid,
appreciate it because that
stupid
happens
together.
often. As you know, you're a podcast host, so that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You ask one question, it's like, okay, you answered it 6 times.
Like
So,
there's a lot in the subjects, but like I said, I think just trying to figure it out there, and if you ever figure it out, let me know.
I will. I will. I'll go to a psychiatrist first to ask if I'm okay because I'm like, I figured it out. Wait a second. Is there something wrong with me? Um, Sometimes I feel like I've have it figured out, and I just get into this very calm acceptance mode. And one of the big things is my end of life. My mother, father, brother died and passed away at these ages 65, 66, 67.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be 68 in July. So I said to my wife, am I next? Because it's like the pattern,
Yeah.
And I just,
Oh, I,
and one time I would be totally freaked out, but now I'm in a calm acceptance of it. I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to enjoy, like I said,
yeah.
looking through my window, I see a breeze blowing out. How interesting that is. I'm just going to contemplate that tree and not worry about it. That's now 3 o'clock in the morning. I may say something else when I wake up and go, ah.
I've asked a lot of people what they thought the meaning of life is.
Mhm.
Probably more than your average normal conversation.
Yeah.
And one of the answers I guess I always hear that always kind of gives me a little bit of pause is when people say love. I've even heard it, and I went to this retreat with a Catholic church a while back,
Yeah.
and essentially, I basically asked that question, and basically, it's like we're created so we can experience love.
That's beautiful. I think
Yeah,
you're on the right track with that. And, you know, God is love. I mean, that's,
yeah,
I've said it. I've said it's just love, you know, and,
and
yeah,
love might as well be paranormal because
yeah,
can't explain it.
can't explain it.
So,
Well, thank you once again, Lalo. I really appreciate you coming
for
on
having
the
me.
Lens of Hopefulness with John Pasadino show. We're both on Podmatch, people. If you're interested in booking either one of us, we both book through. I believe you book as a host through Podmatch. Do you? Yes.
Yeah,
Or okay. That's a service where you can subscribe to it, and you could find like many guests and hosts to be on podcasts, and you could be on this podcast even if you're in this subject matter, and Lalo's also. So thanks everybody for joining. Spread the word and look for us, Realms Commune and the Lens of Hopefulness podcast, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Audible, and Apple Podcasts. I think I got them all right for once. I usually leave one out. I go, wait, there's another one. There's another one. You know, because I can't do show notes. I don't know who has time for that.
right. Get it.
All right, Lalo, have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks so much for joining.
Of course, thank you for having me.
This has been Lens of Hopefulness with John Pasadino.
Streaming on all platforms.
Spread the word.